the last piece in this series on slowing down in order to be more complete and whole in your business is about moving through different seasons of service. And this idea was first presented to me by one of my teachers. Her name is Lindsay Mack, and she is a tarot reader and teacher and wonderful. She has a podcast that's called Tarot for the Wild Soul that I fully recommend listening to if you're interested in these kinds of things. And so the idea of seasons of service is that we move through different seasons in our life and in our business, in particular projects and in things that we do. And you can think of it like the seasons of the year. So there is the season of spring, which is the time for working the soil, for planting the seeds, for really tending the earth. And you can think about seeds as like the ideas that are going to be moving through the process of blooming and fruiting and harvest throughout the rest of the year. So in summer is like this beautiful time where everything is in full bloom, where the seeds that we have planted and have been tending are really starting to show the work that we have been putting into them. They're flowering, they're fruiting, they're just like wonderful and the fruitful part of the year. The fall is the time of the harvest. So that's when the fruit has become ripe. We're picking it. We are sort of like deciding which pieces of fruit we're keeping and which ones we're composting and which ones we're throwing away. It's sort of like this season of sorting through what we have grown. So there's this like aspect of you don't just keep growing. You don't just like plant a seed and grow and plant and grow and plant and grow, but you go through this season of looking at the fruits that have come from your work and deciding which ones you're going to keep, that you're going to draw new seeds from and plant in the next year, in the next season. And which ones you're not going to work with anymore. And of those, some will be composted and will become the soil for the next year's harvest. And some will be burned or thrown away or destroyed in some way because they're not, you don't want them to become a part of what you grow in the future. And then there's the season of winter. And in winter, we allow the ground to just lie fallow. We just let it be. We let it rest and regenerate. And we spend time indoors. We maybe during our like harvest season, like canned or put some food away for the winter, so we are using the things that we have saved and the resources that we have available in this time so that we can rest. And this time of rest is an important part of that cycle of the year. And so in our work, we can find ourselves in different seasons at the same time. So we can be planting a seed in one area and harvesting in another area and wintering in a different area. And also throughout the course of our year, we can choose times to focus on the activities of the different seasons. So one thing that I did this year was I separated out my business calendar according to the zodiac signs, because for me that is meaningful. It brings meaning to each month, and the projects that are that I choose for a given month, and the things that I talk about in a given month, and then within each season I make space for the springtime, the summertime, the harvest time, and the winter time. So I build in some of this into each season. And then in the course of the year, for me, it's most important to look at creating winters for myself, creating winters and summers, spaces where there's not so much like on my end, the responsibility of creation, because I am definitely a creator and I will just like keep creating and creating and creating and creating new things all the time. And I need to build in time to not do that, to just like chill. And I think there's sort of a metaphor that I want to bring in with these seasons of service and the waiting and the time of planting and the seeds and all of the things, because I'm also a ceramic artist. And ceramic artist sounds like so like fancy. Like I'm a potter. I make things that people like drink out of and eat out of, and there's a really wonderful process to ceramics. I mean, first of all, because it is a lifelong apprenticeship. I talked about gardening being a lifelong apprenticeship. Ceramics is another one. I think music is another one. And when I began, I made a lot of things. And I also I didn't throw them away, right? Because clay, you can put water back in it and reuse it. But I destroyed many of the things that I created when I first was learning how to be a potter. And I recently went through a period where I started making things again, and I kept one out of maybe every 5 things that I made, because I wanted to put that clay back into the bag so that as my hands and my body remembered the skills, I would be able to use that clay for other pieces that would be more lovely, because I want to make things that are lovely and beautiful and that bring people joy and that people want to like hold in their hands. And part of that, it was this process of making it and looking at it and being like, okay, do I like this one or not? And in that moment, right after I made it, sometimes I was like, yeah, no, I don't like this one. I'm going to put that one back in the bag. And then other times, as I spent more time with the pieces, they sat on the shelf, that I, waited a week before I looked at them again and all these things, then I would pick out other ones where I was like, yeah, no, these aren't great. I don't want to keep this one. I want to keep this other one. At one point, the cat made some decisions for me, which was great because I really shouldn't have kept those pieces, but I was going to, and it reminded me of this lesson, right? So the lesson of sorting through and putting away, returning to the soil, the things that are not right for this time, but that are the like fertilizer and the ground for the next iteration of things. So I hope that is helpful to you, or at least maybe a little bit interesting, or a different way of looking at the responsibilities of being a business owner and how you can make decisions around how you are spending your time through the course of the calendar year.